אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה בקש, אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה בקש, שבתי שבתי בבית אדוני, שבתי שבתי כל ימי חיי, שבתי שבתי בבית אדוני, שבתי שבתי כל ימי חיי, לחזות בנועם אדוני, בנועם אדוני, ובקר בהיכלו, לחזות בנועם אדוני, to gaze upon the beauty of Adonai. One thing, I ask you, Adonai, to be with you all of my life. One thing, I ask you, Adonai, to be with you all of my life. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה בקש. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויושבי תבל באמרו אמן, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו amen, ואמרו amen. And may we find peace, and may we find peace, and may we find peace, amen. And may we find love, and may we find love, and may we find love, amen. Amen, 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 amen. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויושבי תבל
Shabbat Shalom, welcome to our services at Herzl-Ner Tamid. We are celebrating the Bat Mitzvah of Ava Miller, and we are delighted to have all of you with us, both near and far. We begin our service on page 112, Shir Yom HaShabbat. He's more Shir Yom HaShabbat. Ohod Yinuvum B'Seva Deshenim V'Rananim Iyu Lahagi Kir Sharanai Tzuri V'Lov Lahatabo. Mourner's Kaddish, page 121. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'yalma Divrach Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei V'chayechon Uv'yomechon V'chayedechol Beit Yisrael V'agala Uv'izman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mivarach Leolam Ulamei Almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha b'reichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We rise for Baruch Shamar, page 122. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam Baruch hu. Baruch hu. Yahachid Chei Holimi Melech Meshubach Ufardei Shemol Gadol Baruch Ata Adonai Melech Molal Batish Bachot. Please be seated. We continue with Ashrei, page 136. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Od Yalu Chasela. Hilat Adonai Yidber Pivareko Basar Shim Kol Chole Olam Va'ed Va'anach Neverchia Me'atav Yad Olam. Hallelujah. We turn to Nishmat, page 145. Nishmat Kol Chai Tevarech Et Shemcha Adonai Eloheinu. Mimi Tzrayim Galtano Eloheinu. Ha'el b'tatzumotu zecha, hagadol b'chvot shemecha, ha'gibor lanetzach v'hanora b'noratecha, ha'melech ha'yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa. We continue in the middle of page 147, Shochen Ad. Shochen ad maharom v'kadosh shemo. Makalot ruvot amcha beit Yisrael berina itbar shemcha malkeinu b'chol dor v'ador shekein kovat kol hayitzurim v'fanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu lahodot lahalel lishabeach lifaer liromem lahader livarech lahalel ukales al kol divrei shirot v'tishbachot Davi ben Ishai avdecha mishichecha. We rise for Ishtabach, page 148. Ishtabach shimcha la'ahad malakenu ha'el melech hagadol hagibon. Brachot v'hodaot mi'atav yad olam baruch ata Adonai el melech gadol batishbachot el hodaot Adonai niflaot habocher b'shirei zimra melech el cheholamim. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah B'yalma dirach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayei chon v'yomei chon v'chay d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabah mevorach leolam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitram v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'ytalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata Damiran bi'alma v'yimru amen. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam avahed. Please be seated. Continue on 150. Baruch at Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yehotzer ovrei choshech osei shalom uvorei ata kol. Ein kerchecha ve'ein zulatecha efes biltecha domelach. Ein kerchecha Adonai Eloheinu b'olam hazeh ve'ein zulatecha malkeinu l'chayei ha'olam haba efes biltecha goleinu limot hamashiach ve'ein domelecha mosheinu litchiat hametim. El Adon al kol ha'ma'asim baruch u'mvarach b'ficha neshama God lo v'tuvo malei olam dat u'tvuna sovevimoto hamid gael al chayot hakodesh v'nedaber chavod al hamerkava zechut umishor lifnei chiso chesed rachamim lifnei chavodo tovim me'orot shebara Eloheinu yitzaharam bedat b'vina uvhazgel korach ugvura natan bahem liot moshlim bekerev tevel maleim ziv ufihikim noga naezivam bechol haolam semechim v'tzeitam v'sasim bevoam osim be'em al retzon konam pe'er v'chavot notnim lishmo tzalaverin al zecher malchuto kara l'shemesh vayizrachor Ravehid kinsurat halavana Shevach notnim lo Kol tzava marom Tiferet ugedula Serafim ve'ofanim V'chayot hakodesh Le'el asher Shavat mikol ha'masim B'yom hashvilam. Tiparak Hoshenu al Shevech Maase Yadecha Ve'amore or Shasita Yufaru Chasela. We continue in 153. Titbarak Surenu Malkenu V'Golenu Borei Kadoshim Yishtabach Shmekom. Kulam ahuvim, kulam berurim, kulam giborim, v'kulam osim be'ema, v'vira retzon konam, v'kulam potchem behem b'dushav Torah, b'shira uv'zimra, v'arachim v'shabachim v'farim v'maritzim, u'makdishim, u'mamlichim, et shem ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol ha'gibor v'hanara kodoshu, v'kulam mikablim alehem al mechut shemaim zemizeh, ונותנים משות זה לזה להקדיש רצם בנחת רוח בשפה ורוח ונאמר קדושה כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו והאופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מייסים הצרפים לימתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית כאמור לעושה אורים גדולים כי לעולם חסדו. Ava will now lead us in Or Hadash, page 153.
Or Hadash al Tzion Ta'ir Vaniske Kulanu Meher Lero. Or Hadash al Tzion Ta'ir Vaniske Kulanu Meher Lero. Baruch Ata Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot.
Amen. Ahava Rabbah on the top of page 154.
Ahava Rabbah of Tanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagedol Aviteva Hamalta Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Bavor Avotenu Shebatahu Vecha Avinu Malkeinu Batalam Demhu Kehayim Kentahu Nenu Lamdenu Avinu Ha'av Harachaman Hamrahim Arhem Aleinu Betem Beli Benu Lehavin Ul Haskil Lishmoach Lil Modu Lil Lamed Lishmor Velaso Ul Kayem Et Kul Divrei Talmud Torah Techa B'Yahava Beha Anenu Betorah Techa Beda Beik Lebenu B'Mitzvotecha Beyahed Levavenu La'ahava Ulira Eshemecha Velo Nevosh Leolam Va'ed Velo Nevosh Leolam Va'ed Ki Veshem Kodshecha Hagadol V'Hanura B'Tafnu Nagila V'Nisnecha B'Shuatecha V'Havienu Le'Shalom Me'arba Kanfo Haaretz V'Tolichenu Komemiyu Le'Artzenu Ki El Yeshua Ata Uvanu V'Harta Mikol Velashan V'Kerav Tanu Lashimha Hagadol Sela Be'amet Lechodot Lecha Uyached HaBe'ava Baruch Ata Adonai Haboher V'Mo Ve'amo Yisrael Ba'ahava.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta Adonai Elohecha V'chol levavecha U'v'chol nafshecha U'v'chol me'otecha V'hayu hadbarim ha'elech Asher anochi mitzavacha Hayom ol levavecha V'shinamtam levanecha V'dibarta bam V'shivtecha B'vitecha Uvlechtecha v'aderech, ushoktecha uvkumecha, uktaktam leo ayadecha, v'hayu leitotefo b'neinecha, uktaktam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha.
V'hayam shmo tishmo.
Yomer Adonai al Moshe lemor daber el b'nei Yisrael ve'amarta elechem ve'asu lechem letzitzit al kamfei vigdehem ladorotam ve'natanu al tzitzit hakanaf petil tehelet ve'haya lechem letzitzit uritam oto Uzhartam at kol mitzvot Adonai, ve'asitam otam, ve'lo taturu, ahare levavechem, ve'ahare einechem, asher atem zonim aharechem. Laman tiskeru ve'asitam at kol mitzvotai, ve'heyitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lehayot lechem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
We're on page 157.
Lador hu kayam ushmo kayam vehiso nachon umohuto ve'emunato le'ad kayamet udavarav hayim v'kayamim ne'emanim ve'nehamadim. Goal aleinu goal avotenu yortzerenu tzor yeshuatenu hodenu umatzlienu me'olam shemecha. Ein Elohim zulatecha, Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam. Tehilot la'el elyon baruhu umevorach, Moshe v'nei Yisrael lachan ushira, besimcha rabba ve'amru hulam. Mi hamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neder bakodesh, nora tehilot o sefelach. Shira hadasha shibehu geolim lashimcha al sefa hayam, yacha kulam hodu vehim lichu ve'amruch. Adonai yimloch le'olam ba'ed.
We rise to the Amidah, which will begin on page 159.
Sur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufde hine mecha ve'huda ve'Yisrael, Go aleinu Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, Bezoher Hasadei Avot, Umevi Goel Livnei V'nehem Laman Shemal Be'ahava. Melech Ozer Ufoked Umoshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atav Rav Lehoshia. Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem. Mehokel Hayim Behesed, Mechaye Metim Berahamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofeh Holim, Umatir Asurim, Kayem Emunato Lishanei Afar. Micha Moha Baal Gevurot, Umi Domech Lach, Melech Mami, Umechayem, Umatzmi Yeshua. Veneman Atala Hayot Metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mehaye HaMetim. Tekadesh et Shim HaBa'olam, Keshem Shemakti Shimoto Bishmei Marom, Kakatuv El Yad Nevi'echa, Bekara Zel Zeveyamar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavaot Melech Kol Haaretz Kevodo. Az B'kol Rash Gadol, Adir V'Chazak, Mishmiim Kol, Mitnasim Leomat Seraphim, Leomatam Baruch Yomeru. Baruch Kevodo Adonai Mim Komo. Mim Komcha Malkeinu, Tofia, Betim Loch Aleinu, Kima Hakim Anachnu Lach. Matai Tim Loch Bet Sion, Matai Tim Loch Bet Sion, Bekarov Be'amenu, Bekarov Be'amenu, Leolam Va'ed Tishkom. tit gadol vetit kadash b'toch Yerushalayim ircha lador vador u'netzat netzayim ve'einenu tirana malchutecha kadavar ha'amor b'shirei uzecha al yedei David al yedei David al yedei David Mashiach Tzidkecha Yimloch Adonai Leolam Elohayim Sion Lador Vador Hallelujah Lador Vador Nagid God Lacha Unatat Nitzayim Kedushatacha Nakdish Besivcha Eloheinu Mipinu Leyamush Leolam Va'ed Ki El Melech Gadol V'Kadosh Atah Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue with Kaddish Shalem on page 167.
Yigadol ve'yikadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alama divirach hirute. Ve'amlich mahute b'hayachon. Uv'mechon uv'haye dechol beit Yisrael. Ve'agala uv'izman kavri v'yamru amen.
Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach. Leolam le'almel maya itbarach.
Yibarach ve'yishtaba ve'yipa'ar ve'yiraman ve'yinaseh. Ve'yihadar ve'yit'aleh ve'yithalal shemei dekudashah be'rihu. Le'alam min kol birchata v'shirata tishbachata v'nahamata da'amiram be'alama v'imru amen.
Amen.
Hikabal salotachon uva'utachon dachol Yisrael kodam avachon tiv'shamaya v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehi shalom Rabbah min shemaya v'hayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Osei shalom b'imramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen. Please be seated. We continue with the Torah service beginning on page 168.
Ein kamocha ve'elohim Adonai ve'ein k'ma'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yiten Adonai yavarach et amo v'shalom av ha'rahamim he'tiva v'ertzocha et Zion Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Ki v'echad levad batachnu melech el-ram v'nisa adon olamim Ve'ahi bin so'aharon v'yomer Moshe Kuma Adonai ve'afutzu oivecha ve'anusu misanecha mipanecha Ki mitzion tetzei Torah U'Dvar Adonai Mirushalayim. Baruch Shanatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shanatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato. Be'anara hates, Be'lishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira, Ana Emor Tush Behan. Be'anara hates, Be'lishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira, Ana Emor Tush Behan. Yehera Vakodama, Datif Talibi Be'oraita, Betashli Mishalin Dalibim, Dalib Adacholamach Yisrael. Latavul Hayim V'Alishlam. Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol, Adonai Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol, Adonai Kadosh Shemo.
Badalu Adonai Iti, Unaromimach Shemo Yachdav.
Adonai Hagedula. Eret v'hanetzach v'hahod, Kichol b'shamayim v'hahod. Adonai Hagdula v'hanase, Chol rosh Ramamu, Ramamu. Adonai Eloheinu, Avu v'hishtachavu, Adam raglav kadoshu, Romemu, Romemu. Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, Lehar kodsho, Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Please be seated. Yazor v'yagin v'yoshia l'chol ha'chosim bo v'namar amen. Ha'kol havu god Eloheinu nuchavol Torah. Ein kan kohen Michael ben Moshe ufreda bimkom kohen. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato v'yatem havikim b'Adonai Elohechem chaim kolchem hayom. This morning we are chanting Parashat Miketz. Michael Tischler is going to be chanting the first Aliyah, which you'll find on page 257, Genesis 42:53 through 42:57.
Baruch את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. ותכלנה 7 שני חסבה, אשר היה בארץ מצרים, ותכלנה 7 שני הרעב, לבוא כאשר אמר יוסף, ויהי רעב בכל הארצות, ובכל ארץ מצרים היה לחם, ותרעב כל ארץ מצרים, ותצעק העם אל פרעה ללחם, ויאמר פרעה לכל מצרים, לכו אל יוסף, אשר יאמר לכם תעשו. והרעב היה בחרב היה על כל פני הארץ, ויפתח יוסף את כל אשר בהם, וישבור למצרים, ויחזק הרעב בארץ מצרים, וכל הארץ באו מצרימה לשבור אל יוסף, כי חזק הרעב בכל הארץ.
Michael will continue to chant the second Aliyah, page 258, chapter 42, verse 1 through 42, verse 5.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע אלוהינו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch הנברך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
וירא יעקב כי ישבר במצרים, ויאמר יעקב לבניו למה תתרעו, ויאמר הנה שמעתי כי ישבר במצרים, רדו שמה ושברו לנו משם, ונחיה ולא נמות. וירדו אחי יוסף 10 לשבור ברח ממצרים. ואת בנימין אחי יוסף לא שלח יעקב את אחיו, כי אמר פן יקראנו אסון. ויבואו בני ישראל לשבור בתוך הבאים, כי היה הרעב בארץ כנען. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Michael chants the third Aliyah, page 258, chapter 42, verse 6 through chapter 42, verse 18.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch הנברך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
ויוסף הוא השליט על הארץ, הוא המשביר לכל עם הארץ. ויבואו אחי יוסף וישתחוו לו אפיים ארצה. וירא יוסף את אחיו ויכירם, ויתנכר עליהם, וידבר איתם קשות, ויאמר עליהם מאין בתיהם, ויאמרו מארץ כנען לשבור אוכל. ויכר יוסף את אחיו, והם לא הכירוהו. ויזכור יוסף את החלומות אשר חלם להם, ויאמר עליהם מרגלים אתם לראות את ערוות הארץ בתיהם. ויאמרו אליו לא אדוני, ועבדיך באו לשבור אוכל. כולנו בני איש אחד, אנחנו כנים אנחנו, לא היו עבדיך מרגלים. ויאמר עליהם לא, כי ערוות הארץ באתם לראות. ויאמרו 12 עבדיך אחים אנחנו בני איש אחד בארץ כנען. והנה הקטון את אבינו היום והאחד איננו. ויאמר עליהם יוסף הוא אשר דיברתי עליכם לאמור מרגלים אתם. בזאת תבחנו חיי פרעה אם תצאו מזה, כי אם בבוא אחיכם הקטון הנה שלחו מכם אחר. ויקח את אחיכם ואתם העשרו, ויבחנו ויבחנו דבריכם האמת איתכם, ואם לא, הפכו כי מרגלים אתם. ויאסוף אותם אל משמר 3 ימים, ויאמר עליהם יוסף ביום השלישי, זאת עשו ויחיו את האלוהים אני ירא. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Michael now chants the fourth Aliyah, page 260, chapter 42, beginning verse 19.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך,
Baruch Narak Le'olam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
אם כן אם אתם אחיכם אחד יסר בבית משמרכם, ואתם לכו הביאו שבר רבון בתיכם, ואת אחיכם הקטון תביאו אלי, ויאמנו דבריכם ולא תמותו, ויעשו כן. ויאמרו איש אל אחיו על השמים, אנחנו על אחינו אשר ראינו צרת נפשו, והתחננו אלינו ולא שמענו, על כן באה אלינו הצרה הזאת. ויען ראובן אותם לאמור, הלא אמרתי עליכם לאמור, אל תחטאו בילד בלא שמעתם, וגם דמו הנה נדרש. והם לא ידעו כי שומע יוסף, כי המליץ בנותם, ויסוב מעליהם ויבק, וישב עליהם וידבר עליהם. ויקח מאיתם את שמעון ויאסור אותו לעיניהם, ויצב יוסף וימלאו את כליהם בהר, ולהשיב כספיהם איש אל שקו, ולתת להם צידה לדרך, ויעש להם כן. ויישאו את שברם על חמוריהם וילכו משם, ויפתח האחד את שקו לתת מספו לחמורו במלון, וירא את כספו, והנה הוא בפי אמתחתו, ויאמר אל אחיו, הושב כספי, וגם הנה באמתחתי. ויצא ליבם ויחרדו באמתחתו, ויצא ליבם ויחרדו איש אל אחיו לאמור, מה זאת עשה אלוהים לנו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Ya'amdu Moshe ben Ruvain Udvara v'Dafna bat Ariel v'Tamar Chamishi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Narak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. The fifth Aliyah is chanted by Michael Tischler, page 262, chapter 42, verse 29 through chapter 42, verse 38.
ויבואו ליעקב אביכם ארצה כנען, ויגידו לוט את כל הכוחות אותם לאמור, דיבר האיש אדוני הארץ איתנו קשות, ויתן אותנו כמרגלים את הארץ, ונאמר אליו, כן אם אנחנו לא היינו מרגלים, 12 אנחנו אחים בני אבינו, האחד איננו והקטון היום את אבינו בארץ כנען. ויאמר אלינו האיש אדוני הארץ בזאת, אדע כי כנים אתם אחיכם, האחד הניחו איתי, ואת רבון בתיכם קחו ולכו, והביאו את אחיכם הקטון אליי, ודעה כי לא מרגלים אתם, כי כנים אתם את אחיכם, אתן לכם בית הארץ תזכרו. ויהי הם מריקים שקיהם, והנה איש צרור כספו בשקו, ויראו את צרורות כספיהם המה, ואביכם ויראו. ויאמר עליהם יעקב אביכם, אותי שיקלתם, יוסף איננו בשמעון, איננו בית בנימין, תיקחו עלי היוכו לנה. ויאמר ראובן אל אביו לאמור, את שני בניי תמיד, אם לא אביאנו אליך, תנא אותו על ידי, ואני אשיבנו אליך. ויאמר לא ירד בני עמכם, כי אחיו מת, בכו לבדו נשאר וכו לבדו נשאר, וקראו אסון בדרך אשר תלכו בה, בכורתם אסון בדרך אשר תלכו בה, בכורתם את צבתי, ויגון שאולה.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam natan betochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Ta'amod Chaya bat Moshe v'Dafna Shishi. Samantha Charlo will be having the 6th Aliyah, chanted by Michael Tischler, page 263, chapter 43, verse 1 through 43, verse 7.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch et Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
וחרב כבד בארץ, ויהי כאשר גילו לאכול את השבר אשר הביאו ממצרים. ויאמר עליהם אביהם שובו שברו לנו מעט אוכל. ויאמר אליו יהודה לאמור העד העיד בנו האיש לאמור לא תראו פניי בלתי אחיכם איתכם. אם יש משלח את אחינו איתנו נרדה ונשברה לך אוכל, ואם אינך משלח לא נרד, כי האיש אמר אלינו לא תראו פניי בלתי אחיכם איתכם. ויאמר ישראל למחריותיהם לי להגיד לאיש העוד לכם את אח. ויאמרו שאול שאל האיש לנו ולמולדתנו לאמור העוד אביכם חי היש לכם אח ונגד לו על פי הדברים האלה הידוע נדע כי יאמר הורידו את אחיכם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת. I'm not reading. This is the last one I'm reading. 1 through 6.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. That should go off. Ya'amod Hanania ben Simcha v'Gitol Shvi'i. The seventh Aliyah begins on page 264, chapter 43, verse 8 to 43, verse 15. Vayomer Yehuda el Yisrael Aviv Shilcha hanar iti unkama v'lecha v'nelcha v'nieh v'lo yamut gam anachnu gam ata gam tapenu anochi Ervanu miadi tivakshenu ima lo havitav elecha v'hitzagtiv lefanecha chatati lecha kol hayamim Ki lule hitmananu ki ata shivanu ze fa'amayim vayomer alehem Israel avihem ki imkein afo zot asu kehu mizmarat haaretz bichlechem V'hodiu le'ish menucha me'et sarai u'ma'at devash nechot velot batnim u'kshedim v'chesef menashe kechu v'yadchem ve'et ha'kasef ha'mushav b'fi amtotechem teshevenu Biyadechem ulai mishgehu ve'et achichem kechu ukmu shuvu el ha'ish ve'el shaddai iten lachem rachemim lifnei ha'ish v'shilach lachem et achichem Acher v'et b'neihem v'ani kasher shachalti.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Did you do it already?
Oh, what?
Did you do it already?
Oh, the second one. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu et Torah emet v'hayei olam natan b'totenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We pause for a moment as we recite the Mishaberach for those who are ill. Mishaberach avotenu Ram Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Hu Yivarech Virapeh et HaCholim Menachem Mendel Baruch ben Esther Fredel Viet Shimon ben Yitzchak HaKohen Viet Binyamin Chaim ben Aviva Penina Viet Miriam Baruch Viet Mark Bakam Viet Pesach ben Rivka Viet Esther Leah Badraya Viet Ezra Moshe ben Mordechai Gershom ben Rachel Viet Fishel ben Rivka Viet and Garrett Viet David Glenn Viet, Malka bat Rivka Viet, Yehudit bat Rachel Leah Viet, Mini bat Razel Viet, Chana bat Tobi Viet, Freda Riva bat Leah Viet, Esther bat Sultana Viet, Ruvain ben Miriam Viet, Meira Daniel bat Chaya Viet, Yochevet Chaya bat Sarah Viet, Bela bat Sarah Viet, Nissim ben Rachel Viet, Freda Henya bat Shena Rasha Viet, Avraham ben Sipora Aharon Viet, Frank Roland Viet, Fega bat Sima Viet, Leon Chan Viet, Tzvi ben Dobrish Viet, Ephraim ben Ayala, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Rachmim Alehem Lachtukam Rabotam Vishlach Lahem Erafua Shlema Mina Shalayim Rafua Tenefesh Rafua Taguf Benomahar Amen. Please rise for Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Yalma divrach yurutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayei chon uv'yomei chon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael Bahagala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach Le'olam le'almei almaya yitbarach Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudisha, barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damihiran bi'alma, v'yimeru, amen. Tamod, Tamod, et habachura, habat mitzvah, aviva Yochana bat Chananya, amapira, titu.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch anavrach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ava is going to chant the Maftir on page 269, chapter 44, verse 14 through 44, verse 17.
Vayavo Yehuda ve'echav ve'eta Yosef ve'hu odenu sham. Vayipalu lefanav arza. Vayomer lachem Yosef mahama'aseh hazeh asher asitem. Halo yiratem kinahesh ish asher kamoni. Vayomer Yehuda manomar ladoni manadaber umanitztadak ha'elohim. Matzah et avon avadaha hinenu avadim ladoni gam anachnu gam asher nimsa hagavia biado vayomer halila li ma'asot zot ha'ish asher nimsa hagavia biado hu yihiyeh li aved ve'atem alu l'shalom al avihem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam natav b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. I'd like to invite Ava's parents to join us on the bima.
Okay, I hope everybody can hear me.
Wait one moment, I'm doing Mishabera.
What's that? Oh, okay.
Mishabera Chavotenu Avraham Yitzhak V'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yivarech et hat bat mitzvah Aviva Yochana bat Chananya Shehigia lemitzvot va'alta l'Torah HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishmereha V'chayeha V'chinon Li et libam liyot shalem im Adonai Eloheha lahagot l'b'torato lalechet b'drachav v'lishmor mitzvotav v'timtzal chen v'seichel tov b'nei Elohim v'yadam v'nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Ava, who has come for an aliyah upon reaching the age of mitzvot. May the Holy One guard her and sustain her, helping her to be wholehearted in her faith, studying God's Torah, walking in God's ways, and fulfilling God's mitzvot. May she find favor before God and our community, and let us all say Amen.
Amen.
Simen tov, umazel tov, umazel tov, and simen tov, umazel tov, umazel tov, simen tov, umazel tov, mazel tov, and simen tov. Yehi lanu, yehi lanu, yehi lanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehi lanu, ulechol Yisrael. Mazel tov, Ava, mazel tov.
Thank you.
All right. Are you 6 feet away? All right, it's okay. Ava, you made it. It might not be the bat mitzvah we envisioned, but your mom and I couldn't be prouder of you and what you have accomplished. You will be able to look back on this day and proudly say that your bat mitzvah happened in the middle of a pandemic and that it was amazing. While your mom and I were writing this, we tried to think of the word that best describes you. Impatient came to mind, right, Lil? Yeah. But we quickly decided resilient was a better choice. You are the most resilient young woman. It started with being bitten daily at daycare when you were really little. But your resilience really took center stage just before your 6th birthday when you were diagnosed with type 1. The doctors called you an explorer in the emergency room. You didn't shed a single tear, asked a ton of questions, and didn't look away as they jabbed you with so many needles. You have never once let diabetes define who you are, but it has not stopped you from being a vocal advocate for yourself and others. You eagerly volunteered to visit Congress, starred in an Apple ad, and just last year traveled to Kansas to bring home a service dog that we knew little about, but would quickly become such an important part of your life. You continue to show resilience and determination in everything you do, whether it's swimming competitively, building enormous Lego sets, reading as many books as you can get your hands on, or obsessively watching a TV show, Gilmore Girls, or running for and winning ASB president at your middle school. You have taken on remote school and showed us all today that it is possible to prepare for a bat mitzvah virtually. Every day, you impress us with how you take on challenge after challenge. Your ability to take the negative and turn it into something positive sets you apart, and we are so proud of you for it. Remember this day and all the hard work that led up to it. Hard work is what will take you far in life. Hard work combined with resilience will continue to pave the road ahead to so much success that we know is in your future. Mazel tov, we love you, and now all your hard work is done, and we can enjoy the parade tomorrow.
Thank you.
Anything?
Nothing.
Okay. All right.
And you can turn it off.
Turn it off. Okay. I have to wipe it down.
That's okay.
It's okay. Okay. All right.
Yasher Kolechem Mazel Tov. Ava, it's very, very challenging to follow those beautiful words from your dad that were also composed in partnership with your mom. I know you as someone who is extraordinarily conscientious, someone who has really, in a significant way, mastered so many of the important skills that any member of the Jewish community not only should have, but really needs to have in order to be a true participating, engaged member of the community. Perhaps next time, when we have a bar bat mitzvah, and not all of the Torah readers are lined up, and it falls on me to step in at that moment, maybe you could be the one to fill the gap and get me off the hook. What do you think? I love it. I love it. You're willing to help out in any way, and I am so proud of you, as we all are, for what you've accomplished today, given all the challenges that your mother and your father have shared with us through paper and through speech. You've met all of them with singular courage, and it's never stopped you. And now we know that the sky's the limit for you. In your own right, maybe you will, none of us would be surprised if you ended up achieving greatness like Joseph achieved. And so we wish you a Mazal Tov, and we hope and pray that this will be just the first step in many, many steps that you will take as you grow, continue to grow to adulthood, and you become a very, very involved and important member of our community. I want you to know that the bag of gifts I gave you earlier before the service began included the following: a tzedakah box from our HNT Women's League and Men's Club, a yad from me and from Cantor Curlin, who is not here in physically, but he is more than here in spirit, and he's so proud of you for what you've accomplished as well. A bar bat mitzvah certificate from Herzl-Ner Tamid, a free membership during this your bat mitzvah year to USY, our senior youth group, a $500 voucher to attend the Alexander Must Hebrew School in Israel, a $100 gift certificate from Camp Solomon Schechter, and from the Strom Jewish Community Center, a complimentary one-year free membership. We really hope that you will enjoy and use fully all of these gifts. Mazel Tov. Please rise for Hagbah and Galila. Dvar Torah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe. Please be seated. Ava is going to share her Dvar Torah with us, and then she'll begin chanting the Haftarah on page 271.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
The story of Miketz starts with Joseph, forgotten, lonely, and abandoned in the Pharaoh's prison, because this was where he landed when his brothers sold him to slavery. Until Joseph is summoned to predict and interpret the Pharaoh's dreams. Surprising to everyone, he succeeds in doing this. Joseph tells the Pharaoh that there is going to be a famine in the land after 7 good years, and he has a solution for it. Joseph thinks that they can store a lot of food during the good years to have saved up for when the famine comes. The Pharaoh likes this idea and is impressed. He makes Joseph an important person in Egypt. The only person more powerful is the Pharaoh himself. Assimilation was a useful tool for Joseph in this parsha when he was appointed as prime minister to the Pharaoh. To become this powerful, he had to make some compromises. Joseph was to have an Egyptian name, Sophonet, and an Egyptian wife, Asenath. He had to change his Jewish ways and become one of the Egyptians. Joseph assimilated and agreed to these things. Because he did this, he was able to help the Egyptian people get through the famine and help the Jewish people as well. He assimilated for the greater good, and it paid off in the end. Assimilation is changing our ways. If you are part of a smaller group but have your own identity, then it might be important to savor that. But if you live in a larger society with many others too, there may be benefits to assimilation. Assimilation is doing something a little differently than what your smaller society thinks. It means embracing other ideas and cultures. If you assimilate too much, you no longer have your own true identity. But if you assimilate just enough, it gives you a new perspective on life. It lets you experience new things, and it can even give you the power to use for good. Joseph was able to help the people of Egypt because he had skills to do so. He knew how to store food and how to organize a system of food assistance and pass out food to those who needed it. He was also motivated to preserve life and deal fairly with people because of his understanding of what God wanted of him. Some people think of skills as being in the domain of science, and why you do something in the domain of values. That all skills you have come down to facts and science. This is the idea of the God of science and the God of creation. The God of science speaks to our position in the world, and the God of creation speaks to our values. In order to change the world for the better, we have to understand both the science and our values. Even though Joseph had a new Egyptian identity, he did not forget his Jewish one. When Joseph's brothers came to Egypt during the famine and needed help, Joseph had to make sure that they had repented and understood what they had done to him. After all, these are the same brothers that sold him to slavery. He decided that he would give them a series of tests to make sure that they truly had repented. I think that Joseph was right to do this. These weren't tests that harmed the brothers in any way, and in the end, Joseph planned on helping them and getting them food. Joseph needed to make sure they knew what they had done and that they did regret it. Those tests were for something good. They would lead to a reconciliation. In the Etayim, in the commentary on chapter 42, it says that the purpose of Joseph's elaborate ruse is not to torment or embarrass his brothers, but to see whether they indeed had changed. At this time, Joseph truly had a lot of power in his possession, and he could have used it against his brothers. He didn't need his brothers to continue living the wonderful life he was living. But he chose to do the right thing and help his brothers anyway. Maimonides said that true repentance is when you are presented with the same circumstance, you do not repeat your sin. The process of repentance, as laid out by Maimonides, includes 3 stages: confession, regret, and a vow not to repeat the misdeed. When the brothers had an opportunity to sacrifice Benjamin, their father's favorite, they worked together to save him. Only then had they truly repented their deed of selling Joseph. When this was done, Joseph had brought the brothers back together and gave them food. When you think about this, it was only possible because of the power that Joseph had access to. Overall, I think that Joseph did the right thing assimilating. If he hadn't, how would the Egyptian people have survived? How would the Jewish people have survived? And how would he have helped his brothers? He assimilated and changed his ways for the greater good of society. Even though Joseph had an Egyptian identity, he was still true to the Jewish one, even if you couldn't see it on the outside. There is such a thing as assimilating too much, where you are no longer yourself. Joseph never reached that point. He found the middle, the compromise of assimilating too little and too much. I think that it is important for us to do this too. Assimilation has also affected things throughout time. Joseph took one step for the world a long time ago by doing things the Egyptian way. Today, many more people are doing things like it that are benefiting the greater good. One thing that largely impacts my life is the full inclusion of women in the conservative movement. If the conservative movement had not assimilated and opened up to allowing women to be part of the congregation, I wouldn't be standing here today giving this speech. Decades ago, girls were not given the opportunity to read from the Torah. Some didn't even get to have a bat mitzvah at all. In this case, assimilating has given amazing opportunities to many Jewish people, including me. In Parsha Miketz, Joseph used his power for good and to help people. People across the world are doing things like this today. We need to use power for good and help people who need it. There are many disadvantaged people and groups who don't deserve to be disadvantaged. I believe that everyone who has enough power to do something good should do something. Now, for all of my thank yous. The first one goes to Lily, my little sister. Even though you can be a little annoying at times, every silly thing you say puts a smile on my face. Thank you for always being there for me, no matter what, and for being the best sister anyone could ask for. Mom and Dad, you are amazing parents who have always supported me in whatever I want to do. You allow me to be independent, but are also there for me when I need you most. You will let me spend hours in front of the TV, but always make sure I get my homework done. Thank you so much for everything. To Canner Kurland, thank you so much for helping me to be as prepared as I could by helping me to learn and review all of my prayers. Thank you for setting up amazing and fun Zoom calls with me. Rabbi Herber, thank you for meeting with me over Zoom and talking to me about how my day was. Thanks for reading over this speech and giving me lots of good tips to make it better. Dr. Sherry, Thank you so much for everything you have done to make sure I know what I am doing today. You helped me to learn all my prayers, Haftarah and Maftir, and even write my Dvar Torah. Thank you for being an amazing tutor. Dr. Eliyahu Kriegel, you deserve a shout out for being an amazing leader at FRS and for making sure that all the bat and bar mitzvahs, including me, feel excited and comfortable for their big day. And lastly, but not least, a huge thank you to all of my friends and family who are amazing and are watching my bat mitzvah today. Even though it's virtual, I appreciate it so much that you could all share this special day with me. Shabbat shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzav v'divrei hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai chaboher b'Torah uv'Moshe abdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'imvieh ha'emet v'tzedek. Vayitatz Shalomo v'hine halom vayavo Yerushalayim vayamod lifnei Aaron berit Adonai vaya'ol Oloho vayas shalamim vayas mishteh l'chol avadav az tavona shetayim nashim zonot el hamelech v'tamod na lefanav Vatomer haisha ha'hat bi Adoni ani v'haisha hazot yoshavo b'vayit echad va'eledi ma b'bayit v'hi bayom hashlishi liliti v'teled gam haisha hazot v'anachnu yachdav ein zahar itanu b'bayit zulati shatayim anachnu b'bayit Vayamot ben haisha hazot laila asher shacha alav vatakum batohalayla vatikach ebeni metzli vamatacha yishenach vetashkivehu beheka ve'ebenach met hishkiva veheki vakum baboker lehenik ebeni vehine met Va'eponen elav baboker v'hinei lo hayaveni asher yalati v'tomer haisha haheret lo hi bani hachai uvnei chamet v'zo omeret lo hi bene chamet uvni hachai v'tiraberna lifnei hamelech v'yomer hamelech zo omeret zabeni hachai Uvnei chamet, v'zo omeret lo hi bene chamet uvni hachai. V'yomer hamelech kahu li harav, v'yaviu harav lifnei hamelech. V'yomer hamelech gizru et hayeled hachai lishnayim, utnu et hahatzi le'achat, ve'et hahatzi le'achat. Vatomer haisha asher benachachai el hamelech ki nichmeru rachamecha al benach Vatomer bi'adoni tenu lach et hayalu chachai v'hamet al temituhu v'zot omeret gamli gamlach lo yeh gezoru Vayan hamelech vayomer tenu lach et hayalu chachai v'hamet lo temituhu hi imo vayishma'u chol Yisrael et hamishpat asher shafat hamelech vayira'u mipenei hamelech ki ra'u ki chochma Elohim v'kirbo la'asot mishpat Vayhi hamelech shalomo melech al kol Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sor kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el haneman haomer ve'oseh hamdaber kayem shakol devarav emet v'tzedek Naaman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'namanim devarecha B'davar echad midvarecha, ahur lo yashuv reikam. Ki el melech ne'eman, v'rahaman ata. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol devarav.
Amen.
Rahem al Tzion, ki hi beit hayenu. Vela aluvat nefesh toshia, bimhera be'amenu. Baruch atah Adonai, mesameh Tzion bevanecha. Samhenu Adonai Eloheinu, Beliahu Hanavi Avdecha, Uvmalchut Beit David Meshichecha, Bimhera Yavuho Be'agel Libenu, Al Kisolo Yeshev Zar, Velo Yinhelu Od Aharim Et Kivodo, Kive Shem Kodshecha Nishbatalo, Shalom Yichbe Nero Leolam Va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David.
Amen.
Al HaTorah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al hamvi'im, ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha ve'limnucha, lahavod ultifa'aret. Al HaKol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach. Uvrahim otach yitbarach shimcha befi kol hai tamid leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. Yasher koach.
Thank you.
Well done, Ava. Go ahead. We continue with Ashrei, page 181. Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od yalucha sela. Ashrei ha'am shadonai Elohav, Ashrei ha'am shadonai Elohav. Tehillah leDavid. Tehillat Adonai yidaber pi, vivarech kol basar shem kol shalei olam va'ed, v'anach nevarech ya, me'atav yad olam, hallelujah. Please rise, we're on page 183. Hodu et Shem Adonai ki yizgav shemo levado, Hodol haaretz v'shamayim v'yorem keren li'amo, Tila lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am krovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah, mizmor leDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, Havu l'Adonai kevod shemo, Ishtachtavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai alamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai almayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'hakoach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vayishaber Adonai et harzei halvanon. Vayarkidem kamo egel, levanon birsuyon, kamo ve'en revim. Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil mibar, Yachil Adonai mibar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot. Vayechesof yarot uvayechalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamabu yasha vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz liamo yiten. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Uvnocho yomar.
Ayim hi achazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. The truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. That's what President James Garfield thought about the truth. And in the case of Joseph, his words could not have been more true. Joseph spoke truth at the beginning of his story when he shares with his brothers and with his mother and with his father the fact that at some point in the future, he would reign supreme, that they would all bow down to him. And that truth ended up making his life miserable. It led to him being thrown into the pit after days and months of being ridiculed by his brothers who had so much resentment and enmity toward him. And after they threw him in the pit and they decided they weren't going to kill him, but they were going to sell him off into slavery, he's brought down to Egypt. Now, the truth of what he said hadn't yet come true, but that truth did in fact make life very, very difficult for him. And now here's the part where we talk about how truth can set one free. Joseph ends up in prison. And in prison, he meets two very important officials in the Egyptian court. The Sar HaMashkim and the Sar HaOfim. The official cupbearer of Pharaoh and the official baker of Pharaoh. And he interprets their dreams. Their dreams are really odd. They're strange. They're actually, at least in the case of one of them, more like a nightmare. So the Sar HaMashkim, his dream has him pouring wine and serving it to Pharaoh. The Sar HaOfim, the baker, his dream has a basket on his head filled with bread and birds eating from it. Nobody in prison can tell them what these dreams mean, except for one person, Yosef. Joseph tells the Sar HaMashkim, well, you know what your dream means? Your dream means that you are going to be restored to your former position. You, once again, will be the official cupbearer of Pharaoh. You will pour wine for him, and you will give it to him. Unfortunately, the Sar HaOfim doesn't get the same kind of positive interpretation. Joseph says to him, Pharaoh is going to execute you. Now we know from the Torah reading that, in fact, the dream does come true. And what happens is that Pharaoh has dreams they're enigmatic, they're unusual, and no one can interpret them. He consults with his magicians. No one can tell Pharaoh what his dreams mean. The Sar Hamashkim, he tells Pharaoh, I met this kid in jail, this Hebrew, and he knows how to interpret dreams. So Joseph interprets the dreams of Pharaoh, and in fact, he interprets them correctly. But that's not where I want to necessarily focus this morning. I want to focus on those previous dreams and how they end up coming to fruition. Now, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to actually ask the question and answer it. What was so extraordinary about the way that Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams? Think about it. How unusual would it be for Pharaoh to actually exonerate the cupbearer and have the cupbearer present him with wine? That doesn't seem so unusual, because the reason why they ended up in prison to begin with, the cupbearer and the baker, is based on major faux pas. Okay? The cupbearer presents Pharaoh with a cup of wine that has a fly in it. And the baker presents bread to the Pharaoh that has a pebble in it. Now, doesn't it make sense that the cupbearer could actually see the fly in the cup, while the baker couldn't see the stone or the pebble in the bread? But a really remarkable Torah commentator by the name of the Malbim tells us there are actually two characters that get focused on in the second half of the story, but there are two others that we lose sight and we lose track of. There are actually 4 people involved with the wine and the bread, not just 2. Earlier in the story, the Torah refers to the mashkeh and the ofeh, the person who prepares the wine and the person who prepares the bread. These are the 2 who are in the kitchen, okay? Their kitchen staff, the chef, if you will, the butler, in the kitchen, behind the scenes, preparing Pharaoh's food. It doesn't make sense for them to actually present it, right? They're wearing grimy, dirty clothing, an apron's got stains on it. That's not proper presentation for the Pharaoh. So there are 2 other individuals who take the food, the wine, out of the kitchen and actually bring it to Pharaoh. They are the Sar HaMashkim and the Sar HaOfim. Those are the 2 guys who end up in prison. And the Malbim tells us that there was a trial, a great trial in Egypt. Both the Sar HaMashkim and the Sar HaOfim have to account for what happened. There are witnesses. And the jury claims that the one who presents the wine should have seen the fly. The one who saw the pebble in the bread and didn't tell the Sar HaOfim that it was there, you can't blame the Sar HaOfim, the guy who's presenting the baked bread, for not seeing the pebble. So they exonerate the man who presents the bread, and they say that the cupbearer is the one who should be executed. The exact opposite, though, happens, right? And this just goes to show how great a man and leader Joseph was, because he professes the exact opposite. And he goes against the common mindset, against popular opinion, because Joseph believes in the facts. Joseph believes that it's important to take into account all of the details of a story or an experience. And when you have the facts and you believe in them, the truth will prevail. That is why Joseph is such an extraordinary person. And that is why Joseph interpreted the dreams in the way that he interpreted them. Where there is no truth, there is no grace. That's what Rav Nachman of Bratslav once taught. Where there is no truth, there is no grace. When there's no truth in a society or a community, there is no fairness, there is no mercy. There's only harshness. There's only unrighteousness. The Jewish people have never done well in autocracies. We have never done well in totalitarian societies. We have never done well in places where the truth is assaulted. And we have not done well because lies and untruth have been used against us. Conspiracy theories have been weaponized against the Jewish people. And you look at just about every society from 4th century Alexandria to Middle Age Germany and France and England, the 1930s and 40s Germany, and everywhere in between. And yes, in Egypt, where a new king arises and a falsehood is made against the Hebrews, and based on that falsehood that they are a fifth column, they are an internal danger, they will rise up and they will take over Egypt. And that leads to 400 years of servitude and the massacre, the extermination of every newborn Hebrew male. Friends, I'm sharing this with you because something really remarkable has happened this past week. There are vaccines that are now available. A second vaccine was just approved by the FDA. These vaccines have the power, not in and of themselves, but they will play a major part in saving lives, in stopping this horrific pandemic. But in our country today, there are people who don't believe in it. There are many who haven't believed in vaccines to begin with. There's a very strong anti-vax movement in this country. There's a growing anti-circumcision movement in this country. There's a growing anti-vax movement. And there are many who are joining them because there are people who are leading them to doubt the efficacy and the safety of these vaccines. People in important leadership positions, people who can set an example by publicly taking a vaccine and demonstrating how important this medical development is to saving lives, to bringing to an end the scourge of COVID. But through their example, they continue to confuse and to discourage people from taking the vaccine. Facts are stubborn things, John Adams once said. But in a world where facts and the truth are constantly under assault, it should not surprise us that there are so many who not only won't believe that the vaccine can help, but that it is dangerous, even though every reputable medical expert has said that these vaccines are not only safe, they have a remarkable success rate, upwards of 95%, unlike any other vaccine ever developed. I am a firm believer in the people, Abraham Lincoln once said. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. The great point is to bring them the facts. Abraham Lincoln believed that if people saw the facts, they would believe them. Today, I think, belies his thinking. People are presented with the facts. They not only don't believe the facts, but they end up digging their heels in even more. So if the facts won't work, then public example has to work. People who can influence, who have authority, not by only what they say, but by what they do, they can make a difference. Emet ve'emunah. You are true and you are faithful. Emet ve'yatziv. You are true and you are always there for us. Emet ve'emet. These are two of many prayers in our prayer book that speak about God and truth. We believe passionately in both. There's always a place for questioning. There's a real appropriate reason for not just taking things as they are. But once facts and the truth are presented transparently and in a way that makes them irrefutable, it's incumbent upon us as thinking, responsible people to believe in them. Not just for our sakes, but for the sake of all. May this plague of COVID come to an end. May our leaders demonstrate how we, as individuals, as a community, and as a nation, can make that so. Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Tiyah. As I said a number of Shabbatot ago, we were going to be reframing our services when we had them in person to celebrate a bar bat mitzvah out of the safety of all. The less time that we are here, and for those of you who are not here, it is a relatively small group who are here, but the longer we breathe this air and we share this space, the more likely it is that one can become sick. And so we are going to significantly abbreviate the Musaf service. And following the Chatzi Kaddish, we are going to continue with Aleinu on page 205. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich machutei b'chayei chona v'yomei chona v'chay dechal beit Yisrael ba'galav v'zman karev v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam le'almei almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitram v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalo shmei d'kudisha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata damiran bi'alma v'yimaru. Amen. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latei gedula liyotzeh v'reshit, shalos sanuchui haratzot, ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shalos sam chelkenu kahem, ve'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Dvar Torah Adonai Imloch Leolam Vaed V'ne'emar V'haya Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Hiye Adonai echad Ushemo echad Ushemo echad. Please be seated. This week, we will observe the following yahrzeits. Juanita Amira Corinne DeJong, Gordon Gapanoff, Thelma Rita Green, Louis Lott, Marcy Becker Schwartz, Gary Shapiro, Saul Schulman, Rose Silverstein, Meta Wolf, Leon Feldman, George Frankel, Dr. Lawrence Halpern, Yoshua Matza, Abe Pollock, Mrs. Judith Sherman, Abraham Emmerman, Fred Friedlander, Trey Glasser, Rebecca Hamburger, Jeffrey Herman, David Dove Judah, Alvin Cantor, Ethel Levine, Francis Lochbeam, Rose Lurie, Barbara Ross, Miriam Strauss, Blanche Antler, Arlene Badner, Bella Bierman, Morris Director, Seth Eisner, Andrew Gaffner, Leona Goldberg, Rita Israel, Martha Lublin, Lynn Mandel, Frank Parker, Ronnie Weinstein, Max Ben Rubin, Florence Mesriano, Sadie Perrin, Jane Silverstein, Sam Simon, Lucille Spring, Molly Streitman, Peter Charsh, Victor S. Amira, Mary Israel, Marjorie Cantor, Alice Clint Kicksman, Miriam Com, Joyce Lander, Eva Losk, Lena Magdal, William Schomburg, Charlotte Steiner, Robert Werschkow, Leonard Aronson, Leon Brody, Mayor Glimper, Minda Rappaport, Marion Ringgold, Esther Stalin, Myrna Bierce, Leon Lippman Block, Ruth Block, Alexander Kessler, Dr. Victor Lyman, Judith Maslin, Toby Salzman, Morton Steinhorn, Julius Wiener, Jerome Wiener, and Blanche Wurzburg. And we are mindful of the yahrzeit of First Lieutenant Stuart Mendelson of the U.S. Army Air Force, who entered service from Cleveland, Ohio. He was killed in action on December 31st, 1943, and buried in Brittany American Cemetery in France. First Lieutenant Mendelson was decorated with the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, and the Purple Heart. When we say Kaddish for Lieutenant Mendelson, we say Kaddish for all service personnel killed in action or missing in action who have yahrzeits this week. Mourner's Kaddish, page 207. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam le'olmei maya, yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'yalma v'yimru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. At this time, share some announcements. I'd like to express a lot of gratitude to Michael Tischler for chanting nearly all of this morning's Torah reading, to Craig Weinstein for helping us make minyan this morning, to Herb Weisbaum, and is it Thomas up there or Will, who were in the back of the sanctuary producing and directing our service this morning. We are grateful for all that you've done. Thank you. Just want to remind you that when you leave the sanctuary and the synagogue, please leave through the exits, entrances in which you came in. We want to invite all of you, those of you here and at home, to save the date for our annual fundraiser honoring frontline workers among us, Sunday, March 14th. That's Sunday, March 14th. Look for more details in your e-call. Also, our pop-up blood donation center here at HNT on Monday, December 21st. So many of us don't realize at this time of year that there are many, many people who are in need of blood. We're focused on many other things. It's so vitally important that if we can donate blood, that we do. So please join us here December 21st through Monday, December 21st through Wednesday, December 23rd. Wednesday appointments are still available. And Congregation for the Homeless shelter meals are being captained by Mindy Landsman and Susan Bardsley, Thursday, December 31st at 5:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Please go online to sign up. Again, I'd like to wish a Mazal Tov to our Bat Mitzvah, to Ava and her parents and her sister and family who are watching on our broadcast, and lots of other friends. Ava, you did just a phenomenal job. We're so very, very proud of you. Mazel tov. Would you join me on the bima? We're going to conclude with Adon Olam, page 211. I'm going to lead it, okay? You'll do the Kiddush. Adon Olam, page 211. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlota kol Levado imloch nora, v'hu haya, v'hu hoveh, v'hu yiyeh, b'tifara, v'hu echad, v'ein sheni, le'am shilo, le'ach bihira, v'li reshit, v'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz, v'ha misra, v'hu eli, v'chai goali, v'tzor chevli, b'eit zora, V'hu nisi umanosli, menat kosi b'yom ekra, b'yado afkid ruchi, b'etishan v'ayira, v'im ruchi geviyati, Adonai li v'lo ira. Also like to express our deepest condolences for the passing of Morton Kuznets, husband of Loretta Kuznets, father of Larry and Susie Kuznets, Barbara Kuznets, and Jim, grandfather of Alyssa and Jeff Piha, Laura Scott Azos, and great-grandfather of Olivia, Nathan, Oliver, and Poppy. May her memory be for a blessing. Please rise for Kiddush. I'll do the first part and you do Kiddush. This is called being the mashke, the cupbearer.
Baruch atah.
Al Kain Barach Adonai Yom HaShabbat V'Kadshehu Sabri.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen. Mazel tov. And Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.